Hey guys, today we're going to talk about the relationship between numbers that are written. So when I look at this first number, 5,500, I have my place value chart, so that way I'm lining up. I have my comma that separates the periods of my hundreds, tens, ones, and then my thousands. And I have it written right here, 5,500. What do I think the relationship is between the first five and the second five? Well, let me think back into expanded form. Let me think, if I were to write this in expanded form, what would those two numbers be that look just alike? I'm actually going to use my space up here to write it down. I would write down, there's 5,000, and I need to write down the 500 because the 5 is the same number. So if I'm looking at both of these, what's something that I notice about them? Well, I see that both 5s are the same. I notice 1 0, 2 zeros. Well, I notice that my thousands place has one more 0. If I know this has one more 0, what could I think about with that? What does that even mean? Well, let me think back to what I already know with my multiplication. I know if I have 1, I'll write this on the back. If I have 1, just 1, and I multiply that by 10, what does that equal? Well, that gives me 10. That means I have 10 ones. If I have 2, just two little place value blocks, and I multiply them by 10, how many do I have? I have 20. If I have 3 and I multiply that by 10, what does that give me? It gives me 30. So if I have my 30, let's try this. If I have my 30 and I have 3 ones, well, to get 3 tens, I need to multiply my 3 times what? I need to multiply it by 10. So my 3 in the tens place is 10 times as great as my 3 in the ones place. My 3 in the tens place is 10 times as great as my 3 in the ones place. I have to multiply this 3 by 10 in order to have 3 tens, which is 30. So if I'm looking back over here, and I have my 500 and I have my 5,000, and I'm thinking about what I know with the zeros, with what I notice, what do you think I would need to multiply this 500 by to get 5,000? Did you say 10? If I take my 500 and I multiply it by 10, that's going to give me 5,000. When you have two numbers that are the same number and they are right next to each other, that means that the larger number is 10 times as great as the smaller number. So let me write this out. If I have 338,000, I'm in my thousands place, so I've got my 338,200. I'm going to go ahead and keep my tens and ones at a 0. First, which two numbers am I going to look at to compare or find the relationship? Right, I'm going to look at my 300,000 and I'm going to look at my 30,000. So which of these numbers is greater? The 300,000 on the left or the 30,000 on the right? If you said 300,000, you're correct. So if I have my 300,000 and my 30,000, what do I know about the relationship between the two? Let me flip over to the back here. If I have my 300,000, oop, I made a mistake. I can fix it. If I have my 300,000 and I have my 30,000, how much greater is the 300,000? It's 10 times greater. If I have my 30,000 and I multiply it by 10, I'm going to get 300,000. So let me give you one more set of numbers. If I have 600,000, I'm so sorry, 600,000, 400, I can't even speak correctly, 642,210. Which two numbers am I going to look at to compare the relationship? I'm going to look at the twos in the thousands place and in the hundreds place. How much greater is the 2 in the thousands place than the 2 in the hundreds place? It is 10 times greater. Okay? So let me ask you this. Let's say I keep my 2 in the thousands place and my 2 in the hundreds place is the same. And let's say I switch around a couple of these numbers. What if I were to put my 1, I'm going to move it over to my 100,000s place. 4, 2, 2, 6, 0. Now, did my number change? It changed by a lot. The values changed, especially in the 100,000s place. But did it change the two numbers that I'm going to compare? It did not. Anytime you have two numbers that are right next to each other, it's like a double. They're right next to each other. If I have two numbers that are right next to each other, the larger number is always going to be 10 times greater than the smaller number. So let me give you one for you to try. If I have, I'm going to erase really quick. Give myself some dry erase room here. Let's see here. This time I want to think about the values. So I'm going to think about the 2's in 6,228. Okay? First, this is telling me I'm comparing the 2's. That's what I'm going to compare. What's the value of each 2? Think about the place value. If you need to, flip your paper over and write it out. Well, if I were to flip my paper over, this is kind of full, but I've got a little space right here, so I'm going to write it down. My number was 6,228, right here. So I'm going to look at this, and I have my hundreds place, and I have my tens place, I have 2 hundreds, and I have 2 tens. Well, 2 hundreds means that I have 200. 2 tens means that I have 20. Okay? Whenever you have two numbers that are the same and they are right next to each other, the value of the larger number will always be 10 times as great as the number next to it. Let's get some practice in with your practice buddy. Let me know how it goes.